welcome to The Kids Are All Right, a weekly podcast especially for kids that's all about health, happiness and wellness. I'm Michelle and here with me are my co-pilots on this podcast, Buster and Buddy.
Hey guys, Buster here. Oh yeah, fan favourite Buddy coming at you.
And we're on a mission to help you all feel great and live happy.
Here we go. Hey!
The kids are all right.
So guys, I think we all know how important nature is in our lives and how important it is in helping us feel well and happy. And you know, this probably became even more clear in lockdowns during coronavirus when we realised how our trip to the park or our walks along the beach or hikes in the mountains or in the countryside were so very important. It's incredible how much we really need the great outdoors, and not just for exercise but to feel well and happy.
Yeah, defo. I think I only realised for the first time just how much nature was right outside my door. I couldn't believe it. How did I not notice it before?
Yeah, and I also discovered so many cool things just near my house that I never knew were there. Like, there was this lovely walk along the river just down from my house. I couldn't believe it. I never noticed it before.
Yeah, I found loads of new walks and trails near me too that I'd never known about before. And I do think this realisation of the power and the importance of nature has helped focus people's minds on the climate change crisis that is happening right now. Dancing, and if we don't take action quickly, our environment and so much of this nature that we love will be destroyed. It's not just good for your body, but really good for our heads.
But I've never really understood exactly what it is and how it's messing up our environment. As soon as I get out onto that hockey pitch, my head clears and I come home feeling way better.
Yeah, towns me too, Buster. Cars
there are
floating through the
loads of
streets
ways to
and
get the
people
exercise
standing
we
on their
need.
roofs,
So we went out
hoping
and
to be
asked
rescued
some
by a
kids
helicopter.
what their
Remember
favourite
those
type of
crazy
exercise
forest fires
is.
we saw in Australia? The kids say large parts of the country were covered in massive fires.
My favourite
I feel
portion
like, what on
is
earth is
I like
happening?
doing GAA.
But what I want to
Like, I
know
get to have
is
fun with my
if there is
friends and
anything
run
I
up
can
and
do
down the
in my
pitch.
home or my
And
local
I like
area
playing
in my
camogie
country
as well.
to stop climate
And
change.
it's just really
'Cause
fun
I
because
feel like
you get to have fun
Buster,
with your friends
little old me,
once or twice
I
a week.
can't do nothing about it,
And
right?
Yeah, I
since
think
I've
a lot
moved
of
school,
kids
I
are
still
feeling
get
the
to see
same
my
way,
friends
guys.
from my
And I
old
think
school because
someone like
they're
Greta
in the same
Thunberg
GAA
has
club
encouraged
as me.
lots of kids to step up and take action in their own local communities.
Oh yeah, Michelle, she's amazing.
Yeah, she really is. So we wanted to know what you kids think or know about climate change. So we went out and asked you.
The kids say,
going out bike or on a scooter. And I run around the house. And sometimes do something yoga and
the weather kind of changing that where it wasn't really like this before. Sea levels are rising. One is because of greenhouse gases. A lot of the icebergs are melting
whoa, there were
and
some
animals
really
can go
good ones there.
extinct because they're not used to this type
it's
of
great
weather.
to hear all the different ways kids
it
these days are
destroys
getting
the
busy
earth.
with exercise. So
it
today we've got the
kills
perfect guest to
animals.
chat with us about
I
all
think
kinds
we'll
of different
get
ways to
more
get the
rain.
right amount of physical
Lots and
activity
lots
that
of
we need
rain.
to keep our minds and
Storms.
bodies healthy. It's
Climate
Sharon
change
Flanagan,
is about
founder of
changes in our weather.
fitnessforkids.ie.
This is caused by
Welcome to the
people
show,
burning
Sharon.
fossil fuels.
Thank you for having
We are
me.
now seeing
Hey,
more
Sharon.
extreme weather
Sharon, how's
causing
it going?
icebergs to melt.
Hi,
This is
I'm
having
good. How
a
are
huge
you?
impact.
Really good.
So we'll start at the start. I suppose, why
the
should
world
we
is
exercise
overheating,
regularly?
the
exercise
weather
is
is
just
going
so important
all
for so many.
wrong, and then it can impact on plants and the soil, and climate change is just destroying the world. Well, it would be kind of hard to stop climate change at the point we are at, but we could do things to help so it won't get worse. So we could reduce using plastic or try shopping local or like cycling to places instead of using the car.
The kids say, what?
Oh yeah.
Wow, the kids seem to be really very aware about climate change. So this is why we're so pleased to have a person join us today who's an expert in this area. Her name is Dr Cara Augustenborg and she's an environmental scientist. Thanks for joining us today, Cara.
Thanks, Michelle. Great to be here.
And so there are so many kids who are not just worried, but a little bit confused by all the big words and language used around climate change. So can we first start with basics? Why is our planet getting hotter?
Per day.
Well,
so if
Michelle,
you do,
I mean,
like,
right
if you
now,
walk to
the
school,
reason why
if you
our
do
planet
PE in
is warming
school,
up
if you take
is
part in a
because of
hobby
our own
afterwards,
human
if
activity.
you just
so
kind of
we
tick
have
along at it,
burnt
keep
a lot
doing
of
it.
fossil fuels.
You don't have
in
to
the
do
form
it every
of
day,
oil
but
and
it's
gas
good
to
to
heat our
just
homes
maintain
and
a
power
healthy
our
body and a
cars.
healthy mind
And
through
unfortunately,
exercise.
when we burn
I've
fossil
heard if if you do regular
all of the
exercise,
chemicals that are in those fossil fuels
that you build
go
up something
into our
called muscle
atmosphere,
memory.
and those
So that
chemicals
even
can
if you take a
trap
break from
extra
exercise
heat. So
for a
they act like
period,
a blanket,
that a lot of the strength
and the
and fitness
planet
that you've built
warms
up
us
is
as a result.
actually remembered
Okay,
by your
so,
body,
Cara,
which means
let
then
me
that
make
it's
sure I have
much
this right.
easier to get
The
back into
gases that we
exercise again.
produce from the fuels
so
we burn
when you
creates
exercise,
carbon
when you
dioxide,
do,
which
like,
stays in our
exercises,
atmosphere.
you're
And then this
building these
traps
strong
in the
muscles
heat of the
that hold
sun
on
so
to
it
it.
can't escape.
And
Is
even
that
if you
right?
stop for a
Yeah,
while,
that's pretty
it'll always
close.
be there, and you
There's
can
lots of
always go back
gases
to it.
that
It'll always
contribute
be
to
there.
this. One of them
Wow.
is carbon
I
dioxide.
think this also
It
really
comes from
shows
burning
how
fossil
exercise
fuels,
really
but
does
also
impact on our physical
animals
bodies.
like
That
cows
every
and
time
sheep
we
produce a lot of
exercise, our
methane
body
gas,
is literally
and
remembering it.
even more
That's really
potent than
amazing.
carbon dioxide at trapping heat. And also,
we were
when
just
we
talking
apply
about it's not just
fertilizers
our
to
bodies that
land
feel
to
good
grow
after
food,
exercise,
that
but
also
our
can produce
minds
nitrous
too.
oxide, which
Yeah,
is
Buster.
300
And I read that
times more
exercise
powerful
also
at
helps
trapping heat
increase
than carbon
kids'
dioxide.
resilience. And resilience is their ability to deal with difficult things. So by doing exercise, global warming, is that become stronger to be able to
That's
deal
right,
with
yeah,
the hard
and
things
really
in
what's
life.
happening
Absolutely.
is our
It's so important to
atmosphere and
exercise
our
because it
planet
can
is
help reduce
warming
all our
as a
anxieties,
result
our
of these
stresses.
extra gases
It stimulates
in the
a production of a
atmosphere, and that
chemical
is
called
contributing and
endorphins.
causing
And the hormones
climate
that help
change
us to
and
feel
sea level
happy,
rise
and they help
and
us feel
extreme
confident
weather,
in
which is often
ourselves
what we refer
and what
to
we're
as
doing.
climate change.
And they also
I read
help
that
with
in the
our
last 6
energy
years
levels, and they make us
they've been
sleep
the
better.
warmest since records
Wow,
began,
that's
and that 2020
amazing. So
was one of
exercise
the warmest
literally
years
makes
so
you
far.
feel
So
happy.
I suppose
knew
as a
it.
kid listening, that means if you're 6
Absolutely.
years of age
Exercise
and you've
affects
lived
us
on
in
Earth
so
for the
many
warmest
different
6
ways.
years on
You'll
record,
never
I mean
ever
that's
regret
quite stark.
doing exercise
Yeah, I
or
mean,
even
if you
trying
think
a
about
little
it,
bit
the
of exercise.
concentration
And if you do
of carbon
exercise
dioxide
with
in the
friends,
atmosphere,
siblings,
so that's why
you're
we're
going to
having
work on
such
teamwork, you're
extreme
going to work on
changes
like your
in our
social
temperature.
interactions. So
But
again,
Dr.
you'll
Cara,
never regret working
why
out.
is the world heating up such a big problem?
Amazing. Yeah, I
We
love
all
playing my
love when
rugby all the
it's
time,
sunny
and I
and
love
warm,
going
right?
on the pitch with all
Yeah,
my
we
friends
do
because we
think
have
that,
really good
particularly
fun,
here in
but at the same
Ireland,
time we
that
get loads of
warmer
exercise in
temperatures
too.
would be nicer
it's
for us.
so
It means
good.
better
Like, I
weather, but
cannot
unfortunately,
recommend
it's
any
not
type
that
of exercise
simple.
enough.
So
It
this
like
is
it
the
increases your heart
average
rate.
that the world
It
is
gives
warming.
you more
But of
oxygen
course,
that travels
it's
all
hotter.
around your body.
It's been hotter
It works
places like
on building
the
and
Arctic
growing
or
your
the
brain
equator. So
cells.
Ireland
And
is
Sharon,
not
I've heard that
experiencing quite as
endorphins,
much of the
those
extremes
chemicals
as
that
other
are
parts
released
of the
when we
world, but
exercise,
also
are
too,
actually
all
called
of this
another name as well.
warmer
They're called
temperature
the happy
is
hormone.
extra energy
Yeah,
in the atmosphere and in our
the
planet.
endorphins.
And
When you
extra
exercise and you
energy
get the
drives
endorphins, you
more
will always
extreme
feel
weather.
happy.
So we
And
see
then that can also
bigger
lead to
storms,
you being
you know,
like very
larger storms
confident,
that
feeling
last
very
for
capable
longer,
in
like
your
Hurricane
ability.
Ophelia that
And
hit
it's just,
Ireland a
it's
couple years
great
ago,
for making you feel
and
good.
then a more
And
bigger
I think I
drought.
read some
So in
research
Ireland,
somewhere recently
what we're
that's saying,
expecting because
I
of
couldn't
climate
believe it,
change
that when you
is actually
exercise, the
wetter
endorphins can
winters
actually
with bigger
make you feel
storms
less
and more
physical
incidents of
pain.
flooding, and
Is
then
that
much
right?
drier summers.
Yeah, that's
that
right.
could lead to
In
drought
some parts
and
of the
all
world,
sorts of,
doctors are
water
actually
shortage problems.
prescribing
So,
exercise
Dr.
to
Cara,
reduce
is there
stress,
anything else we
like
can do to
anxieties
stop
and
climate
depression.
change?
And
Like
so,
us
as I
kids, I
said
mean.
before,
Yeah,
you never
there's a
regret
lot
doing
we can
exercise,
do
and it
because
will always
so
make you
much of
feel
what
good,
we do
even
as
if you only
humans
try,
has an
and even if it's
impact
only
on
for a couple of
the
minutes a day.
climate and on nature.
Sharon,
so most of the time,
sometimes
in our day-to-day
I'm
lives,
so
we
tired on my
are
way to training.
emitting greenhouse
But as
gases
soon as
in
I
the way
start,
we
I suddenly
heat and
get
power our
loads of
homes.
energy,
So
and when I
we
come
leave the
home, I'm
lights
still
on,
buzzing
when
with
we,
energy.
when we
Why
burn
is
oil
that?
or gas,
Because
or even
exercise gives
turf
you
or wood
energy.
or coal
It
to
boosts
heat
all
a
your
fireplace.
energy.
Those are
Those
all
endorphins
releasing
that we
greenhouse
talked about
gases.
before,
And then
they
how we
raise
get
your
around,
energy
so
levels.
how we get to
They
school,
help
how we get to
strengthen
work.
your heart,
Are we
give you
taking
more
a
stamina,
car,
and they
or
just
are we,
make you
riding
want
a bike
to do
and
more.
walking, which
So
doesn't
the
produce
more
any
exercise you
greenhouse
do, the
gases.
more
So
you'll want to
we have
do,
to look
and
at
the
our
more
day-to-day
stamina you'll build
activities,
up,
what they
more
call our
endurance, and
carbon
you'll just
footprint, how
keep
much
building on
carbon
it.
But
we
then,
emit through our
Sharon,
activities,
what
and
about
try
the
and get
kids
that
who
down
don't
in
really
every way
like to
possible.
play sports?
So I
mean,
suppose
what
if
can
the
they
kids
do
were going
so
to
that
try
they
and do
get enough
something in their
exercise?
homes themselves,
Well, not everyone
maybe
likes
it's
sports.
mind of something
when I
like
was small,
being the
I
king or
wasn't
queen of
into
turning off
kids going
appliances?
forward.
Definitely.
But I love
conserving energy as much as possible is really important
and
in
it didn't
our
necessarily
houses.
mean that I was going to
going around and
like
turning off
my
lights and
sport.
appliances and,
And as I
putting
got
a
older, I
jumper
still
on
absolutely
instead of
love it,
turning the
but I
heat
don't
up
take part
is
in
a
it
really
now.
good place to start. And then, of course, looking at how often we use a car or even a bus, which is also powered by fossil fuels. So if we can walk and cycle more, then that can really help.
I suppose it could be a really good thing to keep an eye on in the house is that just because you've turned off the switch beside a plug that you've got maybe plugged in for your tablet or your device, it's still using energy. So you need to plug it out and not just switch it off. Is that right?
Yeah, if that little light is still on, then there's still energy going through it. So, plugging things out completely definitely helps.
Oh, I'm definitely going to go around my house and make sure that everything is not just switched off, but plugged out too.
But also make sure that everyone else in the house does as well, like your parents and your siblings.
And it's so much easier now, Cara, to change your mode of transport. It's never been easier, really, with all the cycle tracks and so many cool cycling attachments for your bike. But I've seen toddlers and even little babies sitting and lying down in these comfortably. And there's so many extra cycle paths being built at the moment as well. So there's really no reason not to try it.
We're really lucky right now that we have a Minister for Transport and government who has been putting a lot of money into building new cycle paths that are safe enough for all of us to ride on without worrying about getting hit by a car. It's a really good, exciting time to be getting into cycling and everything. And I should mention too that even having conversations
social interaction,
with adults
as well as all
or
the
maybe
physical
the
benefits
politicians
as well.
in your area
And the last one
about climate change and telling them why you care and why you're concerned about this issue, that can help change others' behavior
it'll
too.
help build and
Start
keep bones
talking
and muscles
about
strong
it with
and
adults
healthy.
because
And how much
adults
exercise
my
should we
age,
aim to get
we
each
didn't
week?
learn about
Like,
climate
as
change
a
in
kid,
school.
should we be setting
So
goals
we're
or
really
targets
behind in
for
our
ourselves?
knowledge compared to young people today.
If you're going to
Definitely. I think that's a really key message, and I think the likes of Greta Thunberg has really kind of inspired this younger generation to go, they do have a voice. They can do something about this.
20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, more than ever, young people are going to be
it's recommended that we do 60 minutes a day.
Is really,
but
really important.
Just
and
be
they need to
realistic in your
saying to
goals.
grown-ups
If it
now,
can be
look,
achieved,
if you
great.
don't solve
Like,
this
you can
problem,
walk to
then you're
school,
leaving me
you
to deal
can
with
do
the
a
mess to
hobby,
clean
you can
up.
obviously
So,
do PE, as I said,
it's really
and just
important
getting out
that young
and about.
people get that message
Is that
across.
what I've heard people
But,
calling movement
will adults
snacking, which is
actually
like
take the
short
time to
bursts
listen
of
to the
energy
kids?
throughout
I mean,
the
is
day?
there anything else we
I
can do
love
ourselves?
this idea. Like, I do
I
this
think that Greta
regularly at
Thunberg
home
is a
with
great
my
example
own
of
3-year-old.
how adults really
It's just
are
like
listening
simple
to
bursts
kids
of
because
exercise that
kids
can be
are
done
getting much
anywhere,
more vocal
anytime.
through the
And
Fridays
we
for
also had
Future
like a short
movement,
challenge that we
and
started
also
off last
young people are much more
January.
connected
We started off
globally
with 1
now,
minute
so
of
they're
exercise,
able to
and then
work
we
together
added
to
1 minute every
influence
day. So
change
by the
in a
end of
way
January, we had
that
like
young
a
people 20
30-minute
years ago
workout.
weren't able
But
to
then,
do.
if that was too
What I
easy,
love is the
we
fact that
said
we're empowering
people
the
could do their
kids
age.
feel
So if
that
you're
they can do something.
9,
And I
you can
think I
do
heard you say
9 minutes
before
of
about
exercise and
writing
build on
letters
that.
maybe to
So
your
you can try
local
the exercises
councillors
that
or
we
the local
supply, or you
paper,
can
maybe
make
getting
a
some
list of all the
mates together and a
exercises
few
you
of you
like
to
and
write
put
in
in
your
some that you
letters and
dislike, 'cause you
getting
never know,
them
you
to
might
put the
like
climate
them then
change
after a
issue
while.
on the front
so you
page or
put together
covers and
loads
just keep
of
it on the
different type
agenda.
of workouts.
Yeah,
Can you give one for me
really
and
what's
Buddy
been
to do
changing
and all the
things
kids
recently
listening?
is, in the last couple of elections
So
in Ireland,
one of my
we
favourite
got
things to
people
do
to just
is
say, even
make
young
sure that
people,
you
look,
write
if a
out a list of
politician calls to
exercises
your
that you
door,
like. And
the
then
first thing
write
we'd
out
love
a
you
few
to
that
say
you
is,
dislike
what are you doing
or
about
that you're
climate
not
change
too
to
keen
that
on.
politician?
You can
You don't
put
have to
them
be an
out,
expert in
roll
climate
them
change
up, and
yourself.
then
You
pick
just
out
have to ask
5.
the question to
And
them.
then
The
if you
more
have a
we can all
clock
ask
nearby,
this question,
you start
the
when
more it
the
gets our
clock is at
politicians
12,
to realize that
and
this is
then for
important to
30
us and that
seconds
they
you
start
do
to
that
respond
exercise really,
in
really
big scale,
fast.
because a lot of the
And
changes
then
we
when you
need
hit
to
30
address
seconds, you
climate
take a little
change
break. Make sure you take your big deep breath, and you just
government
have your little
interventions in like
recovery.
wind
And then you
turbines
go
and solar
again, you hit
panels,
the
and
next minute.
we as
And then
individuals
you can
can't
do
do
that.
those things on our
Move on
own.
to the
So
next
that's why we
exercise
really
and the
need
next
to engage in
exercise.
the
And
political
then you can
system to make
repeat
those
that
big
whole
changes
cycle
happen
as
too.
many times as you
Oh,
want.
that's
Because
brilliant.
you're
I'm definitely
you're
going to write one of
exercising for 30
those.
seconds,
Me
but
too.
you're also like recovering for 30
Remember
seconds.
we learned it in school,
Wow,
the
that's
bio.
such a good idea.
I can't wait to
It's
get
not
started.
bio, it's
That's really great for
biodiversity.
if the weather's
Cara,
not
is
so
that word
great,
biodiversity,
or if your
isn't
day
that
is just
something
really
that's
busy
really
and you
important
can't
in
get
the
out.
fight
So
against
it's
climate
quite
change?
an easy
Yeah,
way
I'm
to
really
fit
glad to
those
mention
exercise
that,
moments
our
into your day, isn't
biodiversity
it?
is the diversity of nature.
Like I
of
have
all the
kids
different
that used to come
species
to my
that we
class,
have on
and
Earth,
they
and
would
all
do
the
it
species are
while they're waiting
interconnected
on
with each
the
other,
car.
so we all need
So
each
if they
other
were travelling
to
in a
survive.
car
And
and
unfortunately,
someone wasn't
our
ready, they would do that.
biodiversity
I
is
have one
in
little
decline.
boy
So when
that
we
used to do his
develop
squats
land and
while
cut
he was
down
brushing his
trees
teeth.
and build
So
big buildings on it, or use it for agriculture,
fit it in somewhere.
negatively
That's
impacting
brilliant.
the biodiversity and
But
nature that was
also,
already
what about
there.
when you have
So
those days
we
where
need
you
to do
just
a
think
lot
to yourself,
more to try
I don't
and
really
be
want to do
wild
any
to bring
exercise.
back
How can you
biodiversity.
push
And if
yourself
you have
through
a
that
garden,
barrier to
you
say,
can
no,
really
I
do
want to
something
do
to
it.
help
I
this. So
really,
you
really
can create
need to do it.
habitat
So we
for
all have days
insects
like
and
that, and
bugs,
that's normal. And
you
it's
can plant
really important
flowers
to
that
remember
attract
that it's okay
pollinators
to
and are
have
the
days
food
where
source
you
of
don't want to.
insects. So
But
in
as
our
I
own
said a
backyard,
few times
we
before,
can do
you'll
a
never
lot.
ever regret,
So
even if
how
you
can
only
we
try
do it
for a
in
few
our own
minutes to
back
do it.
garden?
So
Well,
if you set a
there's a
goal
great
a
set of
realistic
documents
goal,
called the
just do
Pollinator
it.
Plan
And then
here
if you
in
don't
Ireland.
feel like doing your
It'll teach
typical
you
exercise
the
that
things
you've
you can do in
chosen
your
to
garden.
do,
So
get
even
out,
simply creating
go
a bit of
outside and
bare
just be
soil in your
outside.
back garden
Breathe
is
in fresh
really
air
useful.
and
Ski,
keep it
they
simple.
use that
Like there's
to
no point in
create
you doing
winter habitat for them when they're sort
find
of
something that
dormant
you
and
like
hibernating.
to do. So
Yeah,
if you
and
are
I've heard
choosing a
that
hobby,
planting more
find
flowers is
that
something that can
you
really help
really
increase the
enjoy,
number of
because
bees
it won't
again.
be a chore to go
As
and do.
with all the cutting back and the mowing of grass
Sharon,
that we
what
do,
exercise do
there
you
just
like to do
are
the
not
best?
enough flowers
I
left
love-
anymore for
at
the
the
bees and
moment,
insects
it
to eat,
changes all
so
the
they're
time.
literally
So
running
I
out of
love
food.
walking with my
Yeah,
girls.
I mean,
I have
planting
3 little
flowers
girls, so
that
I
are
love to bring them for
native
walks.
flowers
But
that
when I'm not
attract
with them,
bees
I
and
like to
butterflies
do
and other
my little
pollinators
exercise
because
workouts.
we're all
So I have
running out of food because
some
there's not
equipment in
enough
my house
flowers
that I
out there
do.
for them to
I
eat.
like
So creating
kettlebells
that
and
kind
things
of
like
food
that.
supply
So
for
I like
them
to do all
all
those
as
kind
much
of
of the
things.
year as
that
possible
sounds
through
amazing.
planting trees
But you don't
that
necessarily
flower, or
need
even just
equipment, and
normal
that's what's so
flowers,
brilliant
can
about
be
your
really
short
useful too. So
workouts
there's a lot
and
of
the idea
ideas
of
in the
writing your
pollinator plan
exercises
for
you like on a
whatever
slip of
size
paper.
garden
Maybe some
or
days you could
space
even do a
you have
lucky dip.
outdoors.
Yeah,
Isn't it kind of, I
have
suppose, the
lollipop
way
sticks
that we
that
have
I used to
always
bring to
liked
class
to have
with
everything
all the
quite neat?
exercises in.
So we do
And
lots
if
of
a child
mowing
didn't
and
want to
cutting
take part in
back and
something,
making
I'd say,
everything look very
okay, go
neat.
and pick
And
whatever
isn't
one
that
you want. So
biggest
it'd be
stick
like a
part of
lucky
the
dip.
problem? We
Yeah,
need
pick a
things to be a
stick,
little less
pick an
neat,
activity, and then you
maybe
can just
this
do whatever
no-mow.
you
I've
want
heard
to
about a
do.
no-mow
Sharon,
policy that
I
people
have an
talk
extra
about where
special question,
you don't
and
mow
I'd like to
certain
ask
parts
it
of
to
your
all of our
grass.
guests. Would you
Yeah,
mind if I
so
asked
the
it?
great thing is
No
that
problem.
your parents
So,
nag
we
you
like
to
to
like
call
mow
it,
the grass. Actually,
me
it's
too
good to leave it a
little
little
me.
long.
I'm gonna say
So
that to my dad.
basically, if you could go back in
No,
time,
Dad,
what
no mow
advice
today.
would Big Sharon
I am
give
doing
to
a
little Sharon?
biodiversity garden.
Not worry as much.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
So
everybody can worry
patches
about the little
area
things,
that we
about
wild in our
not having your
garden and
homework
let
done
nature take them
perfectly,
back over
or
is really nice.
worrying that your
Particularly
friend
if we
won't
have
be in
like
school that day
dandelions
as a
or
little
daisies
support.
in our grass.
I think
you want to leave
anything,
those there.
if I could tell
So
myself
the
anything, is not to worry as
dandelions
much
are one
as
of
I
the
did.
early flowers
Aw, that's
to
one of the
come
best
out.
pieces of advice we've
Really
got.
important source of food supply when
That's
there's
just
maybe
lovely.
not a lot
That's
of other
gorgeous. I
flowers
think
out there.
we've really got loads of ideas from you there, Sharon. And I think the kids listening will definitely be able to find little ways to movement snack throughout their day. I think that's a great idea. So thanks so much for all of
that are in the
Yeah,
soil
brilliant.
and all of
Thanks
that.
so much.
So
Yeah.
chemical
what's your
free and
favorite animal?
wild
Dog.
is the best way really to address biodiversity, and it's so
Sharon, thank
easy
you
to
so
do.
much. That
It
would be a really good idea to
problem
get
at
the
all.
kids listening who might play
Bye.
sports like football or rugby or GAA or whatever it is to get onto their local club and encourage them to maybe leave parts of the
So, guys,
grounds
it's
as a
important to
no-mow and
make
let them grow
exercise
wild.
your best
Keep the
friend.
pitches
Yeah, and it
mowed
doesn't
and
just have
flat
to
for
be
the
a sport,
playtime,
remember.
and then
There are
outside
so
perhaps
many other
encourage
ways
the
to get the
club
exercise
to
you need.
make that a
And we
wild
learned
area.
that we need exercise
Absolutely.
not
I mean,
just
they
for
have a
our
lot of
bodies'
land that
health,
they could be
but to keep our
sort of
minds
playing
healthy
with
too.
to create
I still
biodiversity
can't believe that
havens
exercise
and
make
not
you
mow it
feel
and
less
let nature
pain.
take it back. And this is where the pollinator
And
plans are
remember,
great
the
because
really important one
they
she
have
said,
special
you will
plans,
never,
whether
ever
it's
regret a
back
workout,
garden
no
or a
matter
golf
how big or
course
small
or
it is.
a church
Yeah,
or a
and it's
GAA
not that
that you
doing
could
a
just,
weight-bearing
print it off
exercise like
or
running or
refer
jogging
the
actually
GAA manager
builds
to
bones.
one of the pollinator
And
plans.
what about
Very
finding out
good.
that exercise
So kids and adults
is so
check out the
powerful
pollinator
that
plan
doctors are
on
now
pollinators.ie,
prescribing it to their
and we'll put that link on our
some
website.
illnesses
I have to
instead
say,
of
it's great
medicine.
to know that there are
Whoa.
things
Yeah,
that we can
like,
do
doctor,
in our own
doctor,
lives
I'd
that
like
can
one
really make a
prescription of
difference to help
all-day
stop
hockey
climate
instead of
change.
school.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're really lucky right now that we're living at a time when all the technology actually exists to solve climate change. And the only thing that's missing right now is
After all
the
that talk
political
of
will
exercise,
and the
I
momentum
think
to
it's
make it
time
happen
we
fast
exercise
enough.
our
So
laughter
it's not like
muscle.
we don't
You get it, Buster?
have the
You get it?
solutions to this. We do, because we can solve this
Hi,
problem.
I'm Connor,
Wow,
age
that's
9.
really great news
Why
to hear.
does the burglar
Oh,
go
thank
to
you
the
so
gym
much, Cara.
to
That
get
was some
nicer
amazing
bums?
advice you gave today. I've learned so much.
I think we've all learned so much and we
Hi,
understand
I'm Grace,
climate change
age
so much
6,
better now.
and
And it's
I'm
great now
gonna
that we have a
tell you my
plan
joke.
and things that we can do in
And
our own
what
home
is
and in our
a
own lives to
banana's
make a
favorite
change.
exercise?
I'm glad to hear it.
Thanks,
It's
Cara.
this
Thanks,
split.
Cara. Bye. You're the
What do you
best.
call a bear with no teeth?
It's
A gummy bear.
Rewind, we can't rethink time. I feel like I really understand the difference between global warming and climate change. Funny bone sure is.
Yeah, I think when you understand the how and the why, that make it easier to see
So
what you
listen,
can
we've
do.
learned loads
Well, I'm
today.
definitely going to
We've
grab a few of my
laughed lots,
friends
and it's time
and we'll
to give our
send letters
brains a
to our
massage.
counselors
Are you
or
guys guys
local
ready for
papers
this
and
week's
ask them
mini
to
mindfulness
change some of the
moment?
green spaces to wild nature areas.
Yeah,
Hi,
and I'm going to be the
everyone.
boss of
Hope you're all
unplugging
well.
in my house.
And welcome to
I'll write
this
down all the
episode
things that
of
need to be
Mini
unplugged at night.
Mindfulness
And I'm going to
Moments.
check them to make sure
Today's
everyone has it done.
episode is
Even my
called
dad, he's
Popcorn
always leaving his
Breathing.
laptop on
Can
overnight.
you imagine you're at the cinema?
Yeah, and I'm going to
you
talk to
love
my
your
mom and dad
box of
about using the
popcorn.
car less for
Do you like
shorter journeys
popcorn?
and maybe use our bikes more
I know I
instead.
do.
I think it'll be much more fun
Breathe
as well
in
as helping to
deeply.
fight against climate change.
Smell
me
the
too.
popcorn.
I really think we can play our
Breathe
part and make a
slowly.
difference, Buster.
Yeah, so how about we set a challenge for the kids listening, buddy?
Yeah, that's a great idea. So, how about we challenge all you kids out there to take on a biodiversity challenge? That you have to convince your parents, maybe even your school or your sports club to have a no-mow policy in parts of the green spaces. So basically, that means they have to leave some sections to grow naturally and not cut the grass.
Yeah, and let's get the adults to let us plant more wildflowers in these areas. Oh, and maybe we could even build
I feel so relaxed after that, guys. Do you know, it's been great today.
No, we don't
Thanks to
have bugs
all
in a
the kids
hotel.
who sent in their audio clips.
hotel
And
for
do you know, if
bugs.
you have something you want to tell us,
with
we
like
want to hear.
woods and stones
Story,
and
a
bits they can
question,
crawl
or your
in.
favourite joke. We'd love to hear from you. All you have to do is record it in the voice recorder app on a parent's smartphone and then email it in to us. The email is in our show notes.
Yeah, and make sure to check out our website, www.thekidsarealright.ie.
Hi, my name is
For more
Sophie
details
and I'm
about
10 years
sending in your
old,
clips,
and this is my
you'll
joke.
find
What
loads
kind
of more
of
info
music
about
do
the
you
show
believe is not
and
right?
everything and everyone we talk to.
We really hope you enjoyed this week's show.
Hi, I'm
and learned
Amira and I'm
loads.
11 and this
If
is my
so,
joke.
then tell all your
What do
friends.
sheep wear on their
Indeed.
lips?
And remember, guys, try
Lip
to
balm.
be healthy.
Be well.
And be
See you next time on The Kids Are All Right.
It's time to... That was a brilliant joke.
Yeah, that really was a good one, all right.
Do you know, it's been great today. Thanks to all the kids who sent in their audio clips. And do you know, if you have something you want to tell us, we want to hear. Story, a question, or your favourite joke, we'd love to hear from you. All you have to do is record it in the voice recorder app on a parent's smartphone and then email it in to us. The email is in our show notes.
Yeah, and make sure to check out our website, www.thekidsarealright.ie.
That's like when me and Buddy race our
For more
bikes down the
details
hill.
about sending in your clips, and
Everybody
you'll
loves
find
that.
loads
And
more
another one
info
would
about the
be
show
taking part
and
in
everything
sports
and
and
everyone we
PE.
talk
So not
to.
everybody likes
We really
PE, but I
hope
think
you enjoyed
PE
this
has come
week's
on
show
an
and
awful lot
learned loads.
in schools.
If so, then tell
taking
all
part
your
in sports
friends.
can help
Yes,
with, like,
indeed.
the
And remember,
teamwork.
guys, try
if you
to
don't focus
be
on,
healthy.
like,
Be
oh
well.
God, I don't like GAA.
See you
or I
next
don't
time
like
on The Kids Are
soccer.
All Right.
It's time to...
Air guitar in the car.
Or wherever you are.